Hello, my name is Guy Shavit, Segmentation, and today I'm going to show you how to configure traffic segmentation, also known as private VLANs, on Segmentation C-300 series switch. So first, what are private VLANs and why do you need them? So a unconfigured layer 2 switch is going to allow communication between all ports. VLANs allow us to configure or split that switch or network of switches into groups, virtual LANs, that internally behave as a traditional switch, meaning all ports can communicate with each other, but between the groups or between the VLANs, there is no direct communication. What do you do if you have a large network of devices that should not communicate between themselves at all? Best example for this is a hotel. There is no need for communication between the different rooms. And in fact, for security reasons, that is something that we very much want to avoid. But all the devices need to connect up to the internet or some server or servers. You could configure virtual LANs, VLANs for every single port, but that is very cumbersome. And if the network is large enough, there's enough devices, you will eventually run out of VLANs. Traffic segmentation or private VLANs is a simple solution to work around that problem. Basically, what we're configuring is a group of ports that are not allowed to communicate between themselves or isolated from each other, and what is the port or ports that they are allowed to communicate with. So let me log into the C-300 switch that I have here and show you how to do so. So first of all, we'll see that I currently have two devices here. My computer is connected in port 8. I have another device on port 2, and I can reach it, as we can see. We're going to go to Interface, Traffic Segmentation. And first of all, we enable it. And we have an option here to have uplink to uplink either be blocked or forward. And what we'll see in a little bit is that there's an ability to configure multiple groups on the switch. And the uplink to uplink mode is should the groups be able to communicate between them. Why would we configure multiple groups? That's really if we have different devices that need to access different uplinks. So for example, maybe we have some devices that need to access one server while others a second server. If we configure it all in one group, the devices would not be able to communicate between themselves, but they'd be able to access both servers. Maybe we have a reason that we do not want to allow that, in which case we could configure two different groups or sessions, as they're called, in the C-300 series switches, and have group 1 be able to access server A, group 2, server B, and then we need to decide should the servers be able to communicate between themselves or not. By default, it's blocked. The most common use case is a single session, in which case it doesn't matter. But if you do need to allow the uplinks to communicate, this would be where you would do it. I'm going to apply, and then I need to configure the session or the group itself. We're going to use session ID number 1. We're going to configure our downlink ports to be, let's say, 2 to 8. And we're going to configure in the same session an uplink port that is, let's say, port 1. And if we click show here, we can see that we have 2 to 8 is downlink, port 1 is uplink. If we look at our ping, we will see that I am no longer able to access the device that's on port 2. It's no longer accessible. And that is the isolation between them. Now, if I move my computer to port 1, which will take a second here, once I do that, since I will now be on the uplink side, I am able to communicate with the device as well. Right? That's all you need to do on a C-300 switch to configure private VLANs or traffic segmentation. One important thing to remember, as always, is to save the configuration. Right here, if you do not save the configuration, the switch was rebooted, it is going to revert back to the last or previous saved configuration. Going to wait for our success message. There we go. Now my configuration has changed and my traffic segmentation will be persistent after boot. Now the C-300 series traffic segmentation is very powerful. It's able, if properly configured, to isolate devices across a network of multiple switches while enabling access to multiple uplinks. All you have to do is just configure. Remember that any port that is configured as a downlink cannot communicate between themselves, and they can communicate with any of the uplinks within their session. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please check out all our other how-to videos of the C-300 series. Thank you, and have a good day.